Welcome to the Emerging Lawyer at the Coffee Conversation Show, powered by the Emerging India Forum TIF and a tech partner, Prime Infotech Solution. Theme is the Cyber Advocate, Cyber Saathi, and beyond. We have with us NS Nappinai, Senior Advocate at the Supreme Court of India and founder of Cyber Saathi. With over 3 decades of experience spanning constitutional law, cybercrime, intellectual property, and policy making. She has been instrumental in shaping India's cyber law framework. Her initiatives through Cyber Saathi have empowered countless individuals with knowledge about cyber safety. Join us as we explore her inspiring journey, her insights into the evolving legal domain, and a glimpse into the personal side of one of India's most dynamic legal minds. And we are fortunate to having this coffee conversation at her office. So, welcome to today's coffee conversation episode, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me on this.
So, friends, I'm Lion Amir Virani, host at Coffee Conversation and a legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution, author of 15 books. We help law firms, corporate legal, startups, and SMEs with world class technology, software licensing, and tech training solutions. So, my first question for you, Napinai, as a pioneer in cyber law in India, what inspired you to pursue this specialized field in its early stages?
Very early stages, in fact.
Yeah, ma'am.
That was a time when people did not even really know the word cyber, of the implications of cyber as a specialized field of law. So I think I should thank serendipity because I started practice specializing in criminal laws and intellectual property rights. So a combination of these is what led me to cyber laws. Around 94, 95, I dealt with the spate of litigations into enforcing software licensing rights, and fight against piracy of software licenses. So at that's why I said that those were days when people did not talk about cyber. We did not have much percolation of cyber, not just in India but across the world. I would say to a large extent at that point of time. Adaptation of the digital domain is what led to also the need for laws to expand and jurisprudence to grow in this field. And those were the early days when all of this was happening. So I was very lucky to have been at that cusp of evolution in this field of law. So in those days, we had to actually open a book and read. You couldn't just click through and then, read something that's easily available online. So we actually went and to libraries, then had to source some of the evolving processes that was happening at that time in terms of model laws, then specialized laws for data protection, etc., that were coming up in European Union, UK, etc. So we actually went to libraries, open books, or in those days, we read today about microfiche, you would actually find microfiche film in these kind of libraries, the British Council Library, the US Library, etc. So anyway, that's when my journey into cyber started. I remember that in early 2000 also some of my friends used to rag me that if Nappinai relied on cyber law for earning, she would starve to death. I must tell you, I've been very lucky in my journey into this field of cyber laws that from very early days of adaptation, there has been sufficient work, on the legal front to encourage me to continue in this path. It was really energizing and inspiring to actually be at that stage where you're seeing the law evolve in India. You are actually a part of it. And I have been very lucky to have had the opportunity to contribute to this development also.
Wow, beautiful. So, let's go to your organization, Cyber Saathi. What's the story behind naming of this organization, Cyber Saathi, uh, and the activities and actions over there? Uh, you're in Cyber Saathi, you're focusing on empowering individuals with cyber safety knowledge. So, what has been the most rewarding outcome of this initiative? So, there are two, three questions
I know.
bundled together.
But Amir, I must say thank you so much for this question. Because, Cyber Saathi as an organization and Cyber Saathi as an initiative are very close to my heart, and especially the name. So, when I thought about starting this organization, the reason was my involvement at that point of time, or I should say, exposure to the kind of online violence that impacts children particularly, and also women as softer targets. So when I was deciding on a name, the first thing that came to my mind, and it actually dates back to my practice as a criminal lawyer also. So whenever you're in trouble, you don't reach out to an authority figure. You also don't think of your parents or the adults in your life as the persons you should reach out to as a first responder. The first responder for a victim always is their friend. And therefore, the name Cyber Saathi or Cyber Friend, because the way I envisioned the organization is that every single individual should be a Cyber Saathi for their friends, for their family, for any person who's reaching out to them. And for them to be a better Cyber Saathi, to be a well informed Cyber Saathi. And for that, this organization, that's why, provides that information that you need, not to become an expert in cyber laws, not just to shape you in terms of how you could become that better first responder, but to first protect yourself, then be that good cyber sati who can lend value and provide preventive measures also to others around you, and also protect them. And finally, the where somebody falls victim, and many of us will, despite the best efforts we take, we cannot prevent something going wrong at some point of time. So in those circumstances, to be that support system which will lend comfort and confidence to the victim to seek their remedies. And there is one tiny criticality that Cyber Sati does, which I felt was a big vacuum at that point of time. We are talking about youngsters who are very knowledgeable in technology, who are confident and who are thorough in the use of technology, but they do not know when they are crossing that invisible line. They do not know when they are a criminal or just a prankster, when a prank becomes a crime or when a joke becomes a crime. So, Cyber Sati also lends that support to ensure that a youngster, young adult, a child does not exceed that remit of what is permissible and impermissible.
So continuing, because I'll be asking more questions on ye cyber secure, sorry, uh, awareness and training and other things. So, like now, too many crimes are being committed by youngsters unknowingly. Ke bhai they take pictures and all those things and keep people, youngsters, at ransom, go to police and damage the reputation, the family. So many things are happening. So, how can who is not done anything wrong can protect himself from that person, from the police, because they take a side of a girl, because women have special privileges with the law enforcement. And first question is that, and I'll continue asking you more questions.
So, to take the last part first, I have to just repeat myself to say that women continue to be soft targets. But it's not just women. We should not really speak about soft targets in binary. Uh, some of the cases I've come across where the victim has been most affected have been LGBTQ plus victims. So, any person who would face that stigma from society, because we still live in a society which judges you and where you think that the society's judgment matters to you. So in a situation where there is a lot of concern in terms of how society looks at you, Any person who can be harmed because of the reach of the digital domain is a soft target. And that's why women stand on a separate footing and they do need that extra protection. Often we have this question posed to us, aren't men affected? Why
I'm
should
coming to that.
only women
So
get these kind of protections?
recently, there was a case which came to my knowledge,
Mm.
and thankfully it got resolved. There were not too many ye ke by situation was handled. Uh, ye, there were feelings,
Mm.
but she misrepresented, and someone ye instigated her, and she took ye ke by what do you say, revenge, and misguided, and the boy was ye ke was in a helpless state ke by what can you do, because she went and complained to the police.
Yeah.
So in that case, we need your guidance ke such cases where men are being harassed, because this movie is also there of Sharon Stone and Michael Douglas.
Yes.
Then
Yeah.
अपना ये भी movie है Akshay,
Ah,
and how ये Kareena defends her husband.
correct.
So this is on the movie side. I'm talking reality, because there are no ये precedents के how men can be take safety from ये in college or in friend circle, then going to work life.
Yes.
So there are three cases I want your advice.
See, one of the things I always caution everyone, be it judges, police, or any kind of user also is, don't assume. Don't presume that A will only be the victim and B will only be the perpetrator. You look at the facts, look at it carefully, and then evaluate. In fact, I may be jumping the gun a bit by saying this, and also a spoiler alert here, but I have used a lot of different kind of scenarios in my second book to explain different kinds of cyber crimes, including how easily men can be trapped. You must have heard of the honey trap methodology or modus operandi that criminals use for online baiting. So often, men are baited through the usage of either women or imagery which is of women, but not necessarily women behind the images. So, there was in the 90s, early 90s, when internet became more prevalent, New York Times carried a cartoon. And there they said that I could be a dog on the computer for all you know, right? So similarly, when you're online, you do not know who are you dealing with.
Yep.
You think you're dealing with a peer. The photograph on the social media platform may look like a teenager. If you're a girl, you may think you're dealing with another girl when you're interacting with that person, or a boy who's your peer age group. But that may be a pedophile, that may be a predator who may be much older, who's not of the gender that you think they are, who may be collecting information from about you. So that's how honey traps also work. And a honey trap is a classic cyber crime which tells you that men, of course, can be victims too. So there is no stereotyping in that. Similarly, there are also other kinds of offenses, like, the colloquial term people like to use is revenge porn. I don't like that name because there somehow seems to be a kind of assumption that it's pornography. It's not. It's just innocent recording of some people's private moments. So I would rather call it sexploitation, because when you're indulging in a little bit of adventure and you think that it's so cool to record your private moments, you don't at that moment think that your partner is going to use it against you. Later on, when relationships sour, your partner then starts using it against you. And I'm consciously using the word partner here, Amir, because I'm aware that the partner who may be threatening, who may be exploiting, who may be extortion, using extortion against the other, could be the girl in the partnership.
Yeah.
Often it may be the male, but there is no assumption that it would only be a male. So, one of the things I've written about also extensively in my second book is to explain that yes, be it under the erstwhile Indian Penal Code, which is now the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, or under the Information Technology Act, you may have certain provisions which are gender specific. But don't worry, you have enough sections which are gender neutral, which you can avail of, you can use if you're a male victim and you believe that most laws favor the women, so what do I do? So you do have enough provisions to help you. The book also kind of walks you through how you can avail of those remedies also. What should you do as a kind of first level hygiene to put together documents, facts, etc. And that's how you protect yourself. But before we move to how you seek your remedies, my first word of caution will always be prevention is better than cure. So be careful in whatever you do. Adventure is good. But when we do an adventure sport, we do take precautions, right? We always ensure that we have a safety kit and we check to see that the safety kit is working. So when we're talking about personal relationships or how we want to capture that, why is it that we seem to throw safety to the winds, right? So take that preventive or protective measure because that's what helps you the most.
So, ma'am, just show the books of viewers can know this
Yeah, thank you for
what you've
that.
been referring.
Yes, this is the second book. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of my first book. The first book is Technology Laws Decoded,
Okay.
which is a very detailed book on cyber laws, all aspects of cyber laws, including substantive and procedural laws.
Wow.
So when I wrote that book, my intention was to encourage youngsters, more youngsters, to come into the field of cyber. We were early players there. We were a handful who are continuously there. But then we need more youngsters to come in, and for any vertical to become a specialization, you need more practitioners in it.
Yes. Yes.
So that is a very heavy duty book on cyber laws. But this is actually a very interesting experiment.
Yeah.
What I did was I wrote fiction for the first time. Yeah. And you must be wondering, what is a lawyer doing writing fiction? But I have to clarify here, it's not fully fiction. So there's a very small, because I also understand that youngsters' attention span may be very short.
Limited, yeah.
So why youngsters? Yeah, all of us now
Oh, yeah.
seem to be moving there.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is that I first write a small fictional tale and then explain to you saying, sorry, it's not fiction, it's from a real case.
Wow.
Then I explain the actual case based on which I've written the fiction. And then using the fictional tale, I'll explain to you what are the sections of law that are available to you as a remedy today itself. Forget about what laws we need, what could come up in India, etc. But in the current scenario, given the laws we have on hand, with all these evolving kinds of cyber crimes, do you still have remedies? So that's the last part which it explains.
So, ma'am, taking liberty, I like to have a panel discussion or a fireside chat or a special chat show for on this cybercrime stories, Cyber Saathi, because there is a lot more to talk because this coffee is about your journey. And yes, this question was important and to have more little discussion because I've recently been part of this incident. So that's why I wanted to buy what men because men
thank you.
are not
I
कि
think-
भाई, they are what do you say not being favored.
Thank you. And of course, it would be my pleasure to have that fireside chat with you.
Yeah, because there are more insights and a lot of things to be shared and educated because now with deep fake, Jamtara,
Yes,
so many things are
indeed,
happening.
indeed.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue the conversation because we have lots more to cover.
Sure,
You're a pioneer. Okay. So, Nappinai, what's the most challenging case you have handled in the realm of cybercrime, and how did it shape your perspective on the future of technology law?
Very difficult question, especially because, as I told you, I started off in the field of cyber laws very early. So, and imagine when you are a pioneer in a particular field, the difficulty that you have is you are creating that path to move forward. So, often you may not have the remedies very easily visible to you. You will not have precedent laws. You will not you will also face this challenge that the system is not familiar with this field of law. So there will always be resistance to taking up a case, etc. So I would actually jump forward to the case which I always say that in a way it was so satisfying to have been part of it, and through which I was able to contribute my utmost. So I would just simply close out the first 20 years of practice in cyber laws by saying that uh, every case was a challenge at that point of time, but it was a pleasant challenge. I really love challenges. You know, many clients of mine in those days used to rag me by saying, Nappinai will never come to you for a vanilla case. We would always come only when there is a challenge because we know you'll somehow find a way through. And I would joke in turn by saying, I don't have a magic wand, so don't expect, you know, the impossible. But somehow we would find that solution. And this is, you know, I'm going to take a small detour here to just, since your title is emerging lawyer. So there is one aspect which is close to my heart, and therefore I want to just take a small detour to, you know, mention that and to very strongly advocate this. See, I was trained by very senior lawyers who believed in integrity and honesty, and I've always lived by those virtues and by those principles, rather. Often today, unfortunately, I keep hearing people talk about how it's become so difficult to continue to be honest in your pursuit of law or justice. I am a living example to each one of you that it is possible. My seniors, of course, were examples to me that it's possible, and one of them, Touchwood, is still there guiding us in this path of integrity and honesty. Why I pause to mention this here is, whatever field, you know, whichever challenge that you take up, whatever field of law that you choose, you will come across obstacles. You will find that there will be stumbling blocks, and there will be corruption or subversion of processes. Know that this can happen, but don't indulge in it. Figure out how you can use the power of law in the right way to find the honest path. And I'm telling you, it may be difficult to begin with, but you will enjoy it and you will realize that it pays finally. Because when you succeed that way, it's real success and it will last till the last level of appeal or the last level of decision in that matter. If you take shortcuts, it's not going to last long. So, this is my one earnest request to every emerging lawyer. Follow the tough path, but follow the path of integrity and honesty. Work hard, read your case briefs properly, know your facts, know your law. Then you will enjoy the journey of law or justice, as I would want to put it. Wow. So, coming to the case that was the toughest, I was appointed as amicus curiae in the Prajwala case, which is, the citation reads as Prajwala letter dated 18 to 2015, violent videos and recommendations. But you know, the case dealt with the really scary issue of actual rape and gang rape videos being uploaded online. And then the scope was expanded to include offenses against children also. What was very encouraging about this case is, it was not an adversarial litigation. It was all by consensus, and then a committee was formed, government committee. I was part of the committee as amicus too. And between the submissions before court and before the committee, or I would say not just submissions, I mean like the proposals that came out of the committee, which became part of an order of this court, of the Supreme Court of India. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping the gun in terms of narrating the facts of the case. But yes, this was a case that was taken up suo motu by the Supreme Court of India. That was in 2015. I was appointed as amicus in 2017, February, if I'm not mistaken. And thereafter, in April, the government committee was formed. And in October 2017, the Supreme Court recorded the consensus proposals of the committee as an order of court. If you please go through those consensus proposals or the order, which, if I'm not mistaken, is October 27, 2017, it is so path breaking in formulating very simple solutions to very complex problems. It has helped victims in the most critical aspect which matters to them, which is that if their personal content is online. They just want that content removed. That's the first level of protection they want. Prosecution, putting the criminals behind bars, ensuring that they are punished, all that is secondary. And this is reality for you. The victims want their privacy and dignity to be protected. And that's what that order actually ensured. Now, much of that order forms part of the intermediary guidelines of 2021, which the government brought in. And even from 2021 to today, you will find that, be it in terms of remedial measures that each platform gives you, remedial measures that the government gives you through its through the grievance officer of a platform, and then the appellate committee in the ministry itself, a victim has options without having to rush to file a criminal complaint or rushing to court. I think that's a huge step forward, and that's why I keep saying that this case was so satisfying for a person who has been pursuing law with focus on justice.
Beautiful. So, continuing conversation, you have been an advisor to the Tamil Nadu e-government agency and Maharashtra Cyber Police. How has this advisory experience influenced your approach to cyber law and policy making?
I would really thank each of these agencies for the opportunity that they gave for me to first dabble in the policy making process and to contribute to it. The Tamil Nadu e-governance initiative was predominantly first focused on blockchain and then artificial intelligence. And we are talking about years back when nobody spoke about these two things. Even today, if you ask people about blockchain, often you will see blank faces, right? There is still resistance and reluctance to adapt to these technologies, which can actually be very useful for the pursuit of law. And I still keep advocating for AI to be utilized, particularly for speeding up the process of justice. I personally feel that we keep talking about the delays in terms of justice delivery systems. Technology cannot be a panacea to all the problems, but it definitely can be one of the solutions to this problem of backlog, to the problem of delays in justice delivery, to speedy justice, to evolving processes of delineating that which can be summarily disposed of to that which requires a deeper dive into the problem, etc. So these are all just simple solutions which I'm just throwing out there, but there is a lot more to it. It's really heartening that now courts have started adapting technologies in the process of evaluating solutions for speedier justice. The executive, that's the government, is also taking initiatives. The Ministry of Justice has already started evolving products or solutions using AI technology. There is a lot that can be done using blockchain technology in terms of particularly evidentiary value and the proving of documents, proving putting forth of evidence before courts. We call it inspection and discovery process, etc. So these are all early stages for use of technology. There is a lot that can be done. So I was part of some of those evolutionary processes as advisor to these agencies. And with Maharashtra Cyber, then there is also a kind of combination there in terms of guiding them, advising in terms of enforcement and also policy making. So you're kind of doing it in a balance. So I must just share one small anecdote in terms of Maharashtra Cyber here, since it's now in public domain. So I talked about Prajwala. One of the critical outcomes of Prajwala was sharing of data with respect to pedophiles in India, and then helping law enforcement enforce against that. So Maharashtra Cyber launched something called as Operation Blackface, and within less than 3 months, because it was 3 months because then the COVID lockdown happened at that point of time. In less than 3 months, several hundred WhatsApp groups which were being misused for pedophilia were shut down and prosecutions were initiated. So, if this is not contribution to society, to nation building, to protecting and preventing against offenses against women and children, then what is, right? So, I'm really grateful for all the opportunities I got in terms of lending my expertise to these agencies.
Wow, beautiful. So, Nappinai, what key recommendations have you made to strengthen India's cybersecurity framework?
Sorry, a lot of it I will not be able to share with you. So,
Anything
but
which is in the public
so
domain
I
can
think
be.
to a fair bit I've already shared. I would rather put it in a slightly different way.
Okay.
I always say that I have my wish list for cybersecurity for India. You know, and when we speak about cybersecurity, often there is a misapprehension in the mind of people in terms of what exactly does cybersecurity refer to. So, one aspect is what concerns you and I as an individual. So, that may be predominantly in the context of cyber crimes and how best are we protected against cyber crimes happening, and also if it happens to us, how speedy is the justice that we can get. And I'll explain here in terms of the most disconcerting issue that affects every single individual: financial frauds. Because, you know, financial frauds happen to every one of us. Any one of us could be a victim, because you cannot be alert all the time. There will be some time when you may make a mistake, then your bank account gets cleaned out, or you lose a lot of money before you realize you have been scammed. Like I mentioned about the Prajwala issue, here also, victims only want one remedy: recovery of their money. Unfortunately, today the systems are still not geared to help you with that. The first level of protection that everybody keeps emphasizing, particularly the police, is the golden hour, which is for you to report immediately before the money leaves the banking channel. If you reported within that time, chances of protecting your money and ensuring recovery are higher. I'm not saying for sure. Please note that, because in financial frauds, recovery still remains a very, very low percentage. So, one of my wish list, submissions was for improving the policy or law or regulatory processes to ensure better protection for victims of financial frauds and alternatives for them to recover their monies. For instance, we must have regulatory mechanisms not just for the payer bank, that is the victim's bank. We must also have regulatory mechanisms which are going to look into how a banking channel has been misused by a criminal also. What is it that the payee bank could have done to make sure that it could have protected against this offense happening itself? And believe me, technology again can come in handy to put in place these protective measures. I must add here that RBI is indeed looking into this, but the speed at which it's happening, in my view, is not quick enough. We need to work faster on that. So that's one of my wish list aspects, and that's why I told you that there are two separate aspects to cybersecurity. We are talking about cybercrime now, but the larger issue, which I'm extremely particular about, and again, I'm speaking about my wish list, not about what I may have contributed, but my wish list is India has to have a national level cybersecurity policy. We have a 2013 cybersecurity policy. Cyber moves very fast. We can't be this glacial. We need to move. We need the flexibility to be able to move faster. Whilst I'm saying that it's a very old policy, I must add here that it's not like initiatives for cybersecurity are not being undertaken on an ongoing basis. It's just that the world also, there has to be clarity in terms of what is our posture, where do we stand in terms of cybersecurity. So when you talk cybersecurity, and this follows in the same pattern as any criminal law, which is you'll have national security, you'll have economic security, and individual security. So we need to have clarity on where India stands. And when I say we, the we could be the international, the milieu. It could be the businesses that want to come into India or are functioning in India, and it is each one of us too.
Wow. Okay. Nappinai, in your opinion, what are the three biggest legal challenges that India faces in the digital age?
The digital age? is one of the biggest challenges we are facing. So, some of the challenges that the system faces are legacy problems which we have inherited. So, that's why I already pointed out that we have to learn to use technology to resolve legacy problems, also, which is that speed of justice, the manner in which law or justice is being delivered. See, often I always keep hearing about the rendering of law. That's why I'm repeatedly using both words, because we should not forget that law is there for justice to be delivered. And justice delayed indeed is justice denied. And I'm in my 34th year of practice. I'm still seeing many of the problems I saw as an intern. So even before 34 years, plus 3 years. So the problems I've seen then, I'm still seeing today. That doesn't really behave well for the system. So we have to pause somewhere, and we have to stop the blame game and start figuring out how we can improve it. And remember, you cannot change the world overnight. We cannot create this big bang kind of a modification. Even baby steps in terms of remedying certain problems will help. And if we keep the focus right, that it is not the problem for the system, it's the problem for the litigants. So, whatever we are doing, we have to do to remedy the problems for the litigants. And the reason why I said the digital age itself is a challenge is, whilst we are grappling with legacy problems, we now have this new problem of new age crimes, new age technologies bringing about a difference in the way we function. So don't think that technology and challenges are only with respect to crime or criminal law. Some of the earliest opinions I've given were with respect to regulatory processes. I'll just give you an example. Imagine somebody reaching out for an opinion on whether they need to retain physical forms of the documents that pertain to a particular business, or if digitized copies are sufficient. That was also a challenge at a time when the regulator had not yet prescribed what is the timeline till when you have to retain a physical copy, and where thereafter you can use a digitized copy. Now you can also have laws which set out how and in what manner a digitized copy can be utilized, as if it is an original or in place of an original, without the need for production of an original. So every aspect of law has been impacted by the digital domain, and therefore anything and everything may suddenly pose a challenge to the system. They should be geared to meet the challenge, and the only way to do that is not to have a checklist for everything, because we cannot foresee everything. Unknown unknowns, after all. So all we can do is understand the methodology and then apply it effectively.
Wow, beautiful. So my last two questions. You have trained judiciary, police, and armed forces in cyber law. What unique challenges do these groups face when addressing cybercrime?
They face many challenges, I must say. So, interestingly, I'm going to start with the last one first, the armed forces. There were a lot of issues that came up, including about their own rights. And, often many people may not know that armed forces personnel even give up on their fundamental rights for protecting the nation. That's why salute to them. I mean, like the kind of service that they're doing and the sacrifices that they're doing for us is something we cannot even imagine often. We take certain things for granted. So, when I was training them, I spoke about the honey trap aspect. So, the armed forces have to stay off social media platforms and even chat apps, etc., because one of the biggest challenges they faced was honey trapping. So when an individual gets honey trapped, you run the risk of a cyber crime. When an armed forces personnel is honey trapped, you run the risk of a national security challenge, right? So this is where you start off with in terms of a training process, in not only explaining what everybody knows, but the implications of it for a particular vertical or a domain. So when you speak about judiciary, you speak to police, you understand the problems from their perspective and see how best you can evolve solutions from the perspective of the system as well as from the perspective of the user, the litigant, the victim, etc. So, when you do those interactions, the biggest takeaway for me, I would say, was you stop being unidimensional. You stop thinking about law as only from your perspective of a defense lawyer, which is what I have been all my life. I've never been on the other side except for rare instances where I've represented the government in a data protection, state government in a data protection litigation, etc. But I've always been a defense lawyer. So you start thinking about law from a very unidimensional perspective. But when you are interacting with all these people, you realize the challenges they face on a daily basis. You start the respect that you have for each of these verticals increases multifold when you realize how much they're sacrificing and they're struggling to ensure that we have a better life. So the again I'm very grateful for all the opportunities I've had to have been able to contribute to nation building or capacity building, as we call it. And um, and I have learned from each experience, and I have again in turn contributed those learnings back to the system. So that's
Beautiful.
what my journey has been in.
Beautiful. So my last question: uh, how has your international exposure through Stanford, Chevening, and other fellowships contributed to your work in India's legal landscape?
A lot. See, one of the things I always I've been very mindful of, and I keep advocating to others also, particularly my juniors, is that one, everybody tells you, right? So it doesn't matter if you made a mistake, you can learn from it. But I always tell them, learn from other people's mistakes also. And more importantly, learn from other people's strengths too. So often I have learned the most from my opponents in court. I always say I love having a very strong opponent, because how else are you going to elevate
Yeah.
yourself to a next level, right?
Yes.
And you
Yes.
learn so much from them. So for me, I literally rub my hands with glee when I am faced with a very tough opponent. I don't scare easy, and I don't get worried that I'm having a tough opponent. I actually enjoy that challenge too. Here, in terms of the query that you put to me, we look at it this way. I started off as a lawyer, and I always used to say, I'm just a lawyer, what else am I mean, I go to court, I practice, and I try to contribute in the best way possible. And here I was, then I expanded my repertoire and included in it training and teaching and contributing, as we were just discussing all this while. How do you contribute better? Through more exposure. And that's what each of these fellowships gave me. My first was the International Visitor Leadership Program of Department of State USA, and then Chevening and Stanford CDDRL. See, I mean, like, you're then interacting with people from diverse fields. It's not just the persons you get to meet at all these places who are the faculty or the people from various parts. For instance, the first fellowship meant that we were meeting people from government, from academia, from lawyers practicing in the US, and law enforcement agencies too, and judges. But the most important takeaway were from the cohort itself, because you are actually traveling together or staying together for a few weeks or a few months with people from all over the world. So imagine the kind of interactions you can have and the learnings you would get through those interactions. So I strongly urge youngsters to apply for and try for these fellowships or scholarships, because the kind of knowledge and exposure you get just from sitting and chatting in the evening. We are here with coffee. So I would say sit over a coffee and chat in the evening with your cohorts and see how much you can learn. Right? That's what I got gained from all of those
Very true. Very
interactions.
true. Just wanted to add for our viewers out there, as you said, K and what do you say? A well experienced opponent gives you the pleasure of adding more value, and he's adding to your knowledge. So same thing, having guest speakers of your experience. I have been fortunate to have featured and have conversation with during this 4 years journey. Recently, I had with Wes Cosmol, who's the founder of Delphi Internet Corporation, uh, the first internet in US. There are many other instances are there where these speakers have come into my life and our team's life. Recently, we did with Vikesh Walia. Uh, he is a pioneer in apna independent director, started his company. Shailesh Hari Bhakti is the chairman, and there ye, other industry gurus are part of the board. So, so fortunate कि just seeing how coffee conversation we cover not only the professional personal journey. So the coffee speakers are enjoying it. Both parts are being covered. So one only covers because they have seen that they're going for speaker conferences or being invited for a interviews or all those things. They give you a subject topic and that's it. So no one asks on the personal side. So we are bridging that gap and wonderfully playing that part. So now coming to the main part, that was the professional part. Let's discover Nappinai as a person. So tell us about your family and your formative years.
Well, I come from a very big family, and I guess that in a way helped form Nappinai the way she is. So, many people ask me who inspired me to become a lawyer, etc. And I literally announced to the world, I mean, the small world I lived in at that time, in my seventh grade, that I was going to be a lawyer. So I guess the first person who probably helped guide me to this option was probably my grandfather, but in absentia. He was not here at that time. He was practicing in Delhi. So my grandmother used to share stories about his cases, and also of my grand uncle, who was both a freedom fighter and a lawyer, and how they had contributed. So again, your title is emerging lawyer. So one more thing I would like to add here, and in fact I've written about it. There is a group of us in the Supreme Court called the Friday Group, and the gentleman who has founded Friday Group came out with a beautiful publication called, for freedom, a lawyer for freedom fighters. Why I'm mentioning this is, for many years, I have now seen that lawyers have lost that pride in the profession, or they have lost their path into why they have become lawyers, or what is it that they can contribute as lawyers. And this is my journey, which is I was very proud to be a lawyer. I was inspired to be one. And I've always believed lawyers are those who are here to contribute to the formation of society, for sustenance of a society. For without law, a society cannot survive. You need law and order for society to survive. So each element of law enforcement is critical, and lawyers are part of that system. So take pride in what you are, and that's how I came into the profession. I had very strong lady figures. Both my grandmothers were very strong women who guided my path. My mom, of course, was the ultimate person who helped me to, uh, or who drilled it into me, that it is irrelevant whether you're a male or female. We were all treated the same. We were four of us, okay, three brothers and I, and we were all treated the same. Imagine being brought up in a family like that, where women were always given primacy, but at the same time taught that you are not special, you are all equal. Okay.
Beautiful.
And that's what my mom drilled into me. And also that it's critical for me to have my own identity, and have that identity, for have that foundation for that identity in what I do. What is the work I want to do? How am I going to contribute to the society and not just be a burden on earth? My
Beautiful.
dad ingrained the habit of reading in me, and also versatility, which I'll talk about going further. But every single person has contributed. I always say I've been very lucky with the people I've had in my life, be it my brothers, my husband, who's very supportive, and everyone. So, and all my colleagues, my juniors. So, when you come into the profession of law, everybody becomes a family. So when that family works as a cohesive whole, what better way than to launch yourself into success?
Beautiful. Okay. Uh, Napina, when you're not handling complex legal cases, what hobbies or activities do you enjoy to unwind?
I somehow suspected you were going to ask me that. That's why I paused earlier. Because so this is what I said, told you. Know the versatility that my father drilled into us is that there's not much that I'm not interested in. Often people think that lawyers are very unidimensional. Sorry, that's not the case. We love life and we live life. So I've been a sports person all my life. I started off first with basketball, cricket, then table tennis, badminton, and in very late in my life, at least according to me, very late, at the ripe age of 38, I started playing tennis. And I must tell you, within a few years, I was able to at least beat. I mean, I'm not talking about championships and all. No? At least my building championships, I was able to win. And I used to beat most of the persons who I played tennis with. And invariably, because not many people, not enough women are adapting to tennis, it would be invariably my tennis buddies were all mostly men. But I did scare them quite a bit in my game of tennis. So be it sports, and I already told you reading was a passion, and I love music, love movies. I can binge watch. So all my passion in a way is captured in my first book, because the whole idea when I wrote that book was I did not want it to be a boring compendium alone. I wanted it to inspire people to join cyber law, right? So I used all these interests, and everything that I would talk about in the book would have that grounding in music or gaming or sports, things that can interest youngsters, things that would interest anybody to read further.
Wow, beautiful. So, which ye web series are you binging on?
I actually watch all genre. Fantasy fiction is one of my favorites. But the one thing I actually love to watch and I'm reluctant to watch are any web series which deals with law or courtroom drama. Because when you're watching it, your blood boils because that's not
Yeah.
law or courtroom
Typically.
drama. It's very
Yeah.
different. So, again, for all those emerging lawyers, suits is not what is going to get you a better hearing in court. Don't think that's the correct approach to law, be it in a law firm or in court. That's just drama. Remember that. Similarly, any movie you watch with the courtroom drama obviously has creative license. So it's not what happens in a court of law. But all I can tell every lawyer is if you get excited despite what would be very boring for somebody else with a court drama, a real court drama, you're made for law and you're made for litigation for sure then.
Wow. Okay. Uh, Let me explain the story behind the emerging law. I mean, there are 8 series at the Coffee Corner show because it is a social initiative and being powered by the Emerging India Forum. That's why each series have got that name of the emerging lawyer, the cybersec professional, the emerging entrepreneur, the emerging startup, the emerging student. We also have Sri Shakti. So I could have covered you in the Sri Shakti also because you. I've got one more question. So
Okay.
the naming of the series was because it's under the Emerging India. So it is for all. See, everyone is contributing. So everyone has more miles to go. So that's why emerging. It's not
Lovely.
by you are 3 years in your journey. So everyone, whoever is at 30, 40, but still there is
I agree with you.
milestones to
I
achieve.
always tell people I'm still evolving, I'm still emerging as a professional practitioner, now a policy, contributor to policy making. I won't call myself a policy maker, but contributing to policy making. So, that's something that has kept me going all these years because you don't stagnate. You're not doing the same thing over and over again. You're experimenting, but within that field which you know is your specialization.
Wow. Okay. Uh, Napina, you have the privilege of traveling for fellowships, conferences, and many other things. So, do you have a favorite destination that has left a lasting impression on you?
I love traveling, so I've traveled a lot. That's again a very difficult question. Okay, if I could name one which was a very quirky destination, it was Malta. So I was invited to speak there, and I must say that the organizers of that conference had done such a wonderful job. And before I went there, everybody was referring to Malta as the, like a poorer cousin of of Cannes, but I disagree totally. Malta is beautiful, it's exotic, and I loved visiting the country as well as the conference and the entire experience itself. Through the conference, I ended up meeting a lot of people in academia and also lawyers practicing in Malta. And you realize that you can't just brush aside a small country as if it doesn't matter. They also are contributing a lot in the in jurisprudence, in the manner in which they are approaching law. And I'm not talking just about law. And there was this really cute evening of Malta experience that we had. Uh, that's something that left an indelible mark in my memory.
Wow. Okay. uh, how does a weekend look for Napine?
I wish I get a weekend. It's been a long time since I got a weekend.
So suppose
Yeah.
you have a month. Let
Oh.
so we can go leave
Uh,
aside a month or a week where you are disconnected from the world. What do you like to do?
So, one of the things that I have been doing from very early days, and that's what I opt for when I want to cut off completely, and that's trekking. Because once you're trekking, then you can't be on your phone, you run the
You
risk of a
can't be.
fall, you're not going to be, watching a screen, you are just going to be one with nature. That's something which I love doing. And if
Wow.
it's raining, and particularly in Mumbai, when you trek during the rains, that's an even better way to get cut off completely, because you're not even going to get that one off call suddenly from somewhere. And even if you get it, you're not going to run the risk of your phone out there in the rains. So,
Wow.
trekking is a great way to spend a weekend.
Wow. So this is what the coffee speakers, as Napine said, lawyers don't lead a dull life. Watch our coffee episodes. There will be interesting insights. You will get to know from each coffee speaker. Like Napine goes for likes for trekking, but there is she has multiple passions also. Music, books, binging on movies, web series. So there have been coffee speakers. Like recent I had, he likes to go for paragliding. There is one scuba diving. So a lot of things lawyers don't lead only legal work. But once they have got their own passion, one lawyer has got his own music band.
Wow.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why we said okay, by
Mm.
with a coffee conversation, personal journey comes up, and you're going down memory lane, and not only memory lane, you're going forward also.
Yes.
So, what's your action plan for 2025, personally and professionally?
A lot. I will be getting back to writing a few books, and there's a lot that needs to be done beyond just practice of law. Of course, I that's my passion, and I would always hope for more critical matters and contributing through them. But this is a phase where I'm actually looking at sharing more. So I would probably be launching some podcast too. I'm going to pick your brains on how best to go about it. I'll give you more than coffee for that then. And yeah, but the whole idea of 2025 is sharing. That's
Beautiful,
what I hope to do.
beautiful. So my last two questions, which will be a reflective one and googly one also. This we have got the series as I shared earlier, Sri Shakti. So what does Sri Shakti mean to you?
I personally feel that's a tautology because Sri means Shakti. So the problem is that Sri often forgets that they are Shakti. They also often forget the Shakti in the Sri. So we need to now identify, acknowledge, and utilize that Shakti in us. And there is a lot that needs to be done. Only yesterday we had a conversation about offenses against women in the conversation happened in the High Court yesterday. But the one thought that was going through my mind at that time was that this is when we talk about it as a systemic problem, we are not just talking about the problem starting from the legal system. We are talking about it from birth. So, Stree has to now understand their Shakti. Stree has to imbibe that Shakti in every other Stree around them, be it daughter, sister, mother, grandmother, as Samir said, going forward, going backwards. Instill that Shakti in yourself and then tap into that Shakti when you need it. Because we have to first help ourselves against offenses or violence, violation, denial of our rights, call it what you will. We have to stand up to it ourselves first and then look to the world to see how best the world can also contribute to that.
Beautiful. So my last one, describe Nappinai in one line.
I can even describe in one word.
Okay.
Passionate. Because Nappinai is all about living happily
Yeah.
and contentedly and being passionate about whatever she does. And particularly in her pursuit of justice.
Wow. So let's have some fun. The rapid fire round. Cyber crime or cyber security?
I would say cybersecurity cannot exist without cybercrime as part of it.
Okay. A book you have read multiple times.
Many books I've read multiple times. If you want something which has been made into a movie and which has come up recently, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, beautiful movie. Okay. You're a morning person or night owl?
100% night owl.
Okay. Your go-to comfort food?
Weirdly, lasagna.
Wow. Mine too. I also like. Okay. Your favorite color?
Right now, black. We wear it all the time. But otherwise, royal blue. Not just any blue.
Wow. Okay. The best piece of advice you have ever received?
Be yourself.
Beautiful. Okay. Favorite cuisine from Madras, Chennai?
From Chennai. I love all the snacky foods from Chennai, like dosas, especially idlis, even idlis. Others may find it boring, but I love idlis, dosas, any of the snacky foods from Chennai. I love.
Wow. Uh, Coffee or chai?
100% coffee.
Let's raise.
Yes,
That's true.
and filter coffee at that.
Yeah. Brew, especially. Okay. Yeah. Your favorite song?
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
Wow, beautiful. So you did well, and here's the
Thank
gift.
you. Thank you so much. I always advocate this to everybody. Please do read the book and yes,
Yeah.
stay safe
Yeah.
online.
Let me see. It has been autographed.
Excellent. Thank you so much for this.
So, friends, it was a lovely conversation with NS Nappinai, a pioneer in the cyber law, and impressive. She is, what do you say, a dynamite, dealing with contributing to cyber laws, and not so in her ways. She is, what do you say, with her Cyber Saathi organization. She is advocacy of education, preventive, and she is a Cyber Saathi, a friend, diligently working in this areas. So she's contributing to cyber laws with new advent, and now 2025 she will be again contributing, sharing on, because new technologies are coming up which has to be brought to all those out there, how prevention can be done, how laws can be used for their safety. So all those cyber lawyers, or they want to become cyber sathis, or they want to protect themselves or connect with NS Nappinai through this episode. Like this, there are over 350 coffee conversation episodes with different subject experts and topics. Watch them, get inspired, and as you said, कि भाई journey अभी भी बाकी है. So there is more to watch and follow all these coffee speakers. Get inspired, and if you want to be featured like NS Napinai, visit our LinkedIn company page, the Emerging India Forum, DM, and a team will connect and invite you and feature you to have coffee conversation. Thank you.
Thank you again.